I married her debts before I ever truly knew her name. I thought I was saving someone I loved. Turns out, I was just another foreign wallet with a beating heart. By the time I understood what was happening, I'd already signed my name on loans I didn't even know existed. This is how I lost everything in Thailand, and how I finally learned what love should never cost. I was sitting across from her in that little cafe on Project Road when I first thought maybe, just maybe, this was real. Nat was laughing at something I'd said. Something stupid about how I couldn't pronounce the name of the street we were on, and her whole face lit up like I'd just told the funniest joke in the world. The afternoon sun was coming through the window behind her, turning her hair this warm shade of brown, and I remember thinking she looked like she'd been waiting for me. Like she'd been sitting in that exact spot, in that exact cafe, just hoping some divorced 64-year-old electrician from Brisbane would walk through the door and make her smile like that. I'd been in Udon Thani for 3 months by then. The divorce had been finalized 6 months before I bought the plane ticket, and I was still walking around with this hollow feeling in my chest, like someone had scooped out everything that mattered and left me with just the mechanics of being alive, eating, sleeping, waking up to another empty day. My daughter had stopped calling after I missed her birthday. My son sent polite text messages every few weeks that felt more like obligation than affection. And Brisbane, the city I'd lived in my whole life, had started feeling like a place where everyone knew what I'd lost and was too kind to mention it. So I came here, to Thailand, to a city I'd never heard of, until I started Googling places where my pension might actually mean something, where I could afford to live and maybe, if I was lucky, figure out who I was supposed to be now that I wasn't a husband anymore, wasn't really a father anymore, wasn't anything but a man with too much time and too many regrets. I'd met Nat through one of those language exchange apps, the kind where you're supposed to help someone learn English and they help you learn Thai, except I was terrible at Thai and she was already pretty good at English. But she kept messaging me anyway. Little things at first. Questions about Australia, comments about the weather. Then one day she asked if I wanted to meet for coffee, and I said yes because what else was I going to do? Sit in my rented room and watch YouTube videos about retirement in Southeast Asia? That first meeting, she didn't ask me for anything. Not my age, not my money, not why a guy like me was alone in a city like this. She just talked. About her family. About working at a small electronics shop near the market. About how she'd grown up in a village outside the city and had always dreamed of traveling but never had the chance. And when she asked me about my life, she listened. Really listened. Not the way my ex-wife used to listen, where I could see her mentally making grocery lists while I talked. Nat leaned in. She asked follow-up questions. She made me feel like what I was saying mattered. "You seem sad," she said at one point, her English careful and soft. I laughed, but it came out bitter. "That obvious?" "Not sad bad," she said, searching for the words. "Sad like you lost something, like you looking for it." I didn't know what to say to that, so I just nodded. And she reached across the table and touched my hand, just for a second, and said, "Maybe you find it here." We walked after that, through the night market, past the vendors selling grilled meat and fried insects and cheap clothes. She showed me where to buy the best mango sticky rice, laughed when I tried to haggle in broken Thai, taught me how to say thank you properly, and when I walked her back to her apartment, a small place above a motorcycle repair shop, she turned to me at the bottom of the stairs and smiled that same smile from the cafe. "I like talking to you," she said. "Can we do this again?" I nodded. My throat felt tight. "I'd like that." Her hand slipped into mine. Just for a moment. Just long enough for me to feel the warmth of it, the realness of it. Then she let go and climbed the stairs, and I stood there in the humid night air thinking that maybe I'd found what I'd been looking for. Maybe this was my second chance. 2 months later, I was paying for everything and telling myself it was normal. It had started so gradually I didn't even notice it happening. First it was just dinners, because of course I was going to pay for dinners. I was the man. I was the foreigner with the pension. Then it was her phone bill because she mentioned, just casually mentioned, that it was due and she was a little short that month. You don't have to, she said, but her eyes were worried. I can ask my mother. Don't be silly, I said, pulling out my wallet. It's what, 800 baht? That's nothing. She hugged me so tight I could feel her heartbeat against my chest. Thank you. I pay you back. You don't need to pay me back. But she never offered again after that, and I never asked. Then it was her motorbike. She showed up to meet me one afternoon on foot, her face flushed from the heat, and when I asked where her bike was, she just shook her head. Broke down this morning, she said. I had to walk. It's okay. Maybe tomorrow I fix it. How much does it cost to fix? Too much. Maybe 3,000 baht. I don't have right now. I was already reaching for my wallet. Let's go fix it now, she protested, but it was soft, gentle, the kind of protest that was really just politeness, just giving me the chance to be the hero. And I wanted to be the hero. I wanted to be the guy who solved problems, who made things better, who was needed. My ex-wife had made me feel useless for years, like everything I did was wrong or not enough or just embarrassing. Nat made me feel like I mattered. The repair shop guy quoted 3,500 baht. I paid it without blinking. You are too good to me, Nat said as we rode back to her place, me on the back of her bike, my arms around her waist. I am so lucky. I kissed the back of her neck at a red light. I'm the lucky one. A few weeks after that, her mother called. Nat answered, and I watched her face change as she listened. She said something in rapid Thai, her voice rising, then going quiet. When she hung up, she looked like she might cry. What's wrong? I asked. My mother. The roof at her house. It's leaking. Rain coming inside. She need to fix it before next month or everything inside get wet. How much? Maybe 15,000 baht, but I don't have. I already sent her money last month for medicine. She wiped at her eyes. I don't know what to do. I didn't even think about it. I'll pay for it. No, Bryce. It's too much. It's not too much. It's your mother's house. We can't let her roof fall apart, but I cannot pay you back this. It's too much money. I don't want you to pay me back. I want your mother to have a roof that doesn't leak. She cried then. Real tears. She put her face against my chest and sobbed, and I held her and felt like the best version of myself I'd been in years. This was what love was supposed to feel like. Taking care of someone. Being there when they needed you. Not keeping score. The transfer went through the next day. 15,000 baht. About 600 Australian dollars. Nat's mother called her that evening. And even though I couldn't understand the Thai, I could hear the gratitude in her voice. Nat was smiling when she hung up. My mother says thank you. She says you are a good man. She says she is happy I found you. I believed her. God help me, I believed every word. It was Darren who first made me question it. I'd met him at an expat meetup, one of those things where a bunch of foreign guys get together to drink beer and complain about visa runs. He was 61, from Perth, been in Thailand for 5 years. We'd gotten along well enough that we started meeting for coffee once a week, just to talk to someone who understood what it was like to be far from home. So how much you spent on her so far? He asked one morning, his tone casual but his eyes sharp. I shrugged. I don't know. Not that much. Not that much meaning what? A few thousand? 10,000? I don't keep track, Darren. It's not like that, mate. It's always like that. That's how it works here. They find a lonely foreigner. They smile pretty. They have a crisis every other week. And before you know it, you've funded a whole village. I felt my jaw tighten. Nat's not like that. They're all like that. That's the game. She's not playing a game. You sure about that? I stood up. I'm sure. And I don't need your cynical bullshit, all right? Not everyone's out to scam everyone. He held up his hands. All right, mate. All right. I'm just saying be careful. That's all. But I wasn't careful. I went home that night and checked my bank account for the first time in weeks, and I realized I'd spent over 40,000 baht in 2 months, maybe more. I'd stopped looking at the numbers because looking at the numbers made me feel like I was counting, like I was keeping score, like I was the kind of man who measured love in dollars and cents, and I didn't want to be that man. So I closed the banking app and told myself Darren was just bitter, just a lonely old expat who'd been burned and now saw scams everywhere. Nat loved me. I could feel it. In the way she touched my face when she thought I wasn't looking. In the way she laughed at my terrible jokes. In the way she held my hand when we walked through the night market. She wasn't like that. She couldn't be. 6 months into the relationship, Nat started talking about marriage. Not in a romantic way. Not the way I'd imagined it when I was younger. Back when I thought marriage proposals involved rings and champagne and getting down on one knee. She brought it up while we were eating dinner at her apartment. Some kind of spicy noodle dish she'd made that was delicious and also destroying my mouth. "Bryce," she said, her voice careful, "I want to ask you something." "Okay. Do you think maybe we can get married?" I put down my fork. "Married? Yes. I mean, we are together 6 months now, and I think maybe it is good for us, for future." My heart was beating fast, but not in the way I expected. It felt less like excitement and more like something pressing on my chest. That's fast, isn't it? In Thailand, 6 months is not fast, and also there is problem. What problem? She looked down at her plate. My visa situation. It is complicated. If we are married, it is easier for me to travel, to go places with you, and also my mother. She asks me all the time when we marry. It make her feel better, feel like I am safe. You understand? I understood. Or I thought I did. I wanted to marry her. I did. But something about the way she was asking, like it was a practical solution to a logistical problem rather than a declaration of forever, made me hesitate. "I need to think about it," I said. Her face fell. "You don't want to?" "It's not that, it's just, this is big. Marriage is big. You were married before. To your wife in Australia." "Exactly. And that didn't work out." She reached across the table and took my hand. "I am not her. I love you. I want to be with you. But if you don't want, I understand." I just thought, maybe you want too. She pulled her hand back and stood up, clearing the dishes, and I felt like I'd just failed some test I didn't know I was taking. That night, she cried. Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet tears that she tried to hide when she thought I wasn't looking. And I lay next to her in the dark, listening to her breathe, and I thought about what Darren had said, about being careful, about not being naive. But I also thought about how lonely I'd been before I met her, how empty my life had felt, how she made me feel like I mattered again. "Okay," I said into the darkness. "Okay, what?" "Let's get married." She turned to face me, her eyes wet and shining. "Really? Really? I love you. I want to build a life with you. If that's what you want too, then let's do it." She kissed me then, hard and desperate, and whispered, "Thank you. Thank you. I promise I make you happy. I promise." We got married 3 weeks later in a small ceremony at a local temple. Her family was there, her mother Somkid in traditional dress, her younger brother Krit looking uncomfortable in a borrowed suit. I paid for everything. The ceremony, the gold necklace Nat wore, which I was told was tradition. The dowry, which was 200,000 baht, and which Somkid accepted with a smile and a blessing in Thai that Nat translated as, "She says you are good man, and she is happy to have you in family." Darren didn't come. I hadn't invited him. After the ceremony, we went back to Nat's apartment, and she seemed lighter somehow, happier. She laughed more that week than she had in the previous month. She cooked my favorite meals. She held my hand when we walked. She called me her husband with pride in her voice. I thought I'd made the right choice. I thought maybe this was what happiness felt like when you were 64 and starting over. Not the wild, reckless happiness of youth, but something quieter, something steadier. Then, a week after the wedding, she mentioned the debts. We were lying in bed, the fan circulating warm air above us, and she said, "Bryce, there is something I need to tell you." My stomach dropped. "What?" "I have some debt from before I met you. Small things. I am paying it, but it is slow. I just want you to know, in case something happen." "What kind of debt?" "Just things, credit card, some personal loan, maybe 90,000 baht total. Not too much. I handle it." 90,000 baht was about 4,500 Australian dollars. Not nothing, but not catastrophic either. "Do you need help with it?" I asked. No, I don't want to ask you. You already do so much. I just want you to know, in case bank call or something, so you not surprised. If you need help, I can help. No, is my responsibility. I take care of it. But 2 days later, she accepted. We were eating breakfast and she said very quietly, "Actually, if you can help with just little bit, maybe 30,000 baht, it would help me a lot. I can pay you back when I get salary next month." I transferred the money that afternoon. She never paid me back. And the debts kept coming. First, it was the motorbike loan I didn't know about. 50,000 baht. Nat explained she'd taken it out 2 years ago when her old bike died, but the payments were too high and she'd fallen behind. The shop was threatening to repossess it. "If they take bike, I cannot go to work," she said, her voice panicked. "I cannot make money to pay other things. Please, Bryce. I know is a lot, but I pay you back. I promise." I paid it. 50,000 baht, 2,000 Australian dollars. Gone in a single transfer. Then it was her mother. Some kid needed surgery for her knee. 80,000 baht. The hospital wanted payment up front. "She is in so much pain," Nat said, showing me photos of her mother wincing, struggling to walk. "Doctor says she need operation or she cannot walk at all soon. But we don't have insurance. We don't have savings. I don't know what to do." I paid for the surgery. 80,000 baht. Then it was Crit, Nat's brother. He showed up at the apartment one night, his face bruised, his hands shaking. Nat spoke to him in rapid Thai, her voice getting louder and more desperate, and then she turned to me with tears in her eyes. "He borrowed money from wrong people," she said. "They want 50,000 baht by tomorrow or they hurt him. He is stupid, so stupid, but he is my brother. I cannot let them hurt him." "What kind of people?" I asked. "Bad people. Loan sharks. Please, Bryce. I know is too much. I know I asked too much, but I don't know what else to do. He is family." I looked at Crit. He wouldn't meet my eyes, just sat there on the couch, staring at his bruised knuckles. I transferred 50,000 baht. Crit left without saying thank you. Every few weeks, something new. A bill I didn't know existed. A debt that had been hiding. A crisis that required immediate cash. And every time, Nat cried. Every time, she said it was the last time. Every time, she promised she'd find a way to pay me back. I stopped believing the promises, but I kept paying. I was meeting Darren for coffee again by then. I'd apologized for snapping at him, and he'd shrugged it off like it was nothing. But that morning, he looked at me across the table and said, "How much now, mate?" "I don't want to talk about it." "How much?" I stared into my coffee. "Maybe 150,000 baht. Maybe more." "Jesus Christ. It's fine. It's family stuff. Medical bills. Old debts. It happens. It happens every week, from what you're telling me. Bryce, you're being bled dry. She's my wife. She's a stranger you married after 6 months. You don't know her. I know this story. I've seen it 100 times. They find a nice guy, they marry him quick, they drain his account, and then they disappear. That's how it works." I stood up. "You're wrong." "Am I? Have you asked her about any of this? Have you asked to see the bills? The medical records? The loan documents? I don't need to see them. I trust her. Then you're a fool. I walked out. But that night, lying in bed next to Nat while she slept, I checked my bank account. I'd spent over 40,000 Australian dollars in less than a year. My retirement savings, the money I'd been so careful with for decades, was bleeding away faster than I could comprehend. And for what? A roof repair I never saw, a surgery I never confirmed, debts I never verified. But I couldn't bring myself to ask her, because asking meant I didn't trust her. And if I didn't trust her, what were we even doing? What was the point of this marriage, this life, this choice I'd made to believe in love again? So I said nothing. I paid what she asked. I told myself it would stop eventually, that we'd get through this rough patch and then everything would be okay. I was so deep in denial I couldn't even see the bottom anymore. The call came on a Tuesday morning. I was eating breakfast, some toast and instant coffee, when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello? The voice on the other end was speaking Thai, fast, clipped, official sounding. I caught maybe 3 words, none of them good. I don't speak Thai, I said. English? There was a pause. Then, in heavily accented English, you are Bryce Hamilton? Yes. You have loan with Krung Thai Bank. 1.2 million baht. Payment is late. 3 months late. You must pay now or we take legal action. My heart stopped. What loan? I don't have a loan. Loan number 7432916. Your name on document. You sign. You are responsible. There's a mistake. I didn't sign anything. You signed June 14. We have copy. If you not pay, we report to credit bureau and begin legal process. You understand? How much is the loan? 1.2 million baht. With late fee and interest is now 1.3 million baht. About 53,000 Australian dollar. I felt like the room was spinning. $53,000. I didn't have $53,000. Not anymore. I'd already spent most of what I had. There has to be a mistake, I said again, but my voice sounded hollow even to me. No mistake. You come to bank tomorrow. Bring payment or we discuss. You have address? He gave me an address in Udon Thani. I wrote it down with shaking hands. When I hung up, I just sat there, staring at the paper, trying to understand what had just happened. Nat came out of the shower, her hair wet, wearing one of my old shirts. Who was that? A bank. They said I have a loan. 1.2 million baht. Her face went pale. What? Did you know about this? No, I don't. How would I? But her eyes were darting around, not meeting mine, and I felt something cold and terrible settle in my chest. Nat, did you have me sign something? I don't know what you're talking about. Did you have me sign loan documents? She started crying. Just like that. Tears pouring down her face, her hands covering her mouth. I didn't want to tell you. I didn't want you to be angry. Tell me what? It was for Crit. He needed money for business. For investment. It was supposed to be short term. He was supposed to pay back in 3 months. But he didn't. He lied to me. He said the business was working, but it wasn't. And now the bank is calling, and I don't know what to do. You had me sign a loan document without telling me? It was those papers. The ones I said were for marriage registration at the district office. You signed them. You didn't read them. You just signed. I remembered. 3 months ago, she'd brought home a stack of papers, said they were official forms for registering our marriage with the government. I'd been watching TV. She'd pointed to the signature lines. I'd signed without reading, because I trusted her. Because reading every document felt like suspicion, like the kind of thing a man who didn't love his wife would do. You lied to me, I said. I didn't lie. I just didn't. I couldn't tell you. I thought Crit would fix it. I thought you would never know. I'm legally responsible for 1.2 million baht that I never agreed to borrow? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know what else to do. He's my brother. He needed help. So you committed fraud? You forged my signature? I didn't forge. You signed. You signed the papers. Because you told me they were marriage documents. She was sobbing now, full body sobs, and part of me wanted to comfort her. That's how deep the conditioning went. Even knowing what she'd done, part of me wanted to make her feel better. But a bigger part of me felt sick. Used. Stupid. I'd signed away $50,000 to help a man I barely knew, for a business I'd never heard of, because my wife had lied to my face and I'd been too trusting, too desperate to be loved. To question it, I need to go to the bank, I said. I'll come with you. No. Bryce, please. Let me help fix this. You've helped enough. I left her there, crying in the living room, and walked out into the hot morning sun. My hands were shaking. My chest felt tight. Everything I thought I knew about my life, about my marriage, about Nat, had just shattered into pieces so small I couldn't even see where they'd landed. The bank was worse than I imagined. The officer, a man named Surasak who spoke perfect English and wore a suit that probably cost more than I made in a month, laid out the documents in front of me with cold efficiency. My signature was on every page. The terms were clear. 1.2 million baht borrowed, 5% interest, monthly payments of 40,000 baht for 36 months, 3 payments missed, late fees accruing. Total amount due now, with penalties, 1.35 million baht. But I didn't know what I was signing, I said. You signed, here, 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 initial, here, signature, here. This is legal document. You are responsible. My wife told me these were marriage documents. That is between you and your wife. The bank has loan agreement with you. You must pay. I don't have that much money. His expression didn't change. Then we must discuss alternatives, repayment plan, asset seizure, legal action. You have property in Australia? Just a small flat. It's mortgaged. Then we arrange payment plan. Or you default and we report to credit agency. You understand? I understood. I was trapped. Legally, completely, devastatingly trapped. Even if I divorced Nat tomorrow, even if I left Thailand and never came back, this debt would follow me. The bank could pursue me in Australia. They could destroy my credit. They could take what little I had left. I need time, I said. You have 2 weeks to make payment or arrange plan. After that, we begin legal process. I left the bank feeling like a ghost, like I was watching myself from outside my body, this stupid old man who'd flown halfway around the world to get scammed by a woman young enough to be his daughter. I walked through the city for hours, not going anywhere in particular, just moving because standing still felt impossible. When I got back to the apartment, Nat was waiting. She tried to hug me. I stepped back. Don't. Let me explain. There's nothing to explain. You lied. You had me sign loan documents disguised as marriage papers. You put me on the hook for over $50,000 for your brother's failed business. What's left to explain? I didn't mean for this to happen. I thought he would pay it back. I thought you would never have to know. But I do know. And now I'm responsible for a debt I didn't want, didn't agree to, and can't afford to pay. We can figure it out together. We can make a plan. There is no we anymore, Nat. Don't you get that? You destroyed we, the second you decided lying was easier than honesty. She grabbed my arm. Please, don't give up on us. I made a mistake. I know, but I love you. That's real. Everything else was, it was just, I was trying to help my family. I looked at her then. Really looked at her. At the tears that came so easily. At the beautiful face that had made me stupid. At the woman I'd married because I was lonely and desperate and convinced that love at 64 could still look like it did at 30. Did you ever love me? I asked. She hesitated, just for a second. Just long enough for me to see the calculation behind her eyes. Of course I love you. When did you decide to do this? Was it before we met? It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? But she didn't answer. She just cried harder, and I realized that the tears weren't for me. They weren't even really for her. They were just a tool, just another manipulation, just the thing she did when words stopped working. I packed a bag that night. Not much. Some clothes, my passport, my laptop. I left everything else. The wedding photos, the gifts I'd bought her, the life I'd tried to build. "Where are you going?" she asked. "Hotel. I need space to think." "Don't leave, please. We can fix this." "There's nothing to fix. You broke it. You broke us. You broke me." I walked out. She didn't follow, and I didn't look back. I spent 3 days in a hotel room that smelled like cigarettes and bleach, staring at the ceiling and trying to figure out how I'd gotten here. How I'd been so blind, so stupid, so desperate for connection that I'd ignored every warning sign, every red flag, every piece of advice from people who actually cared about me. On the 4th day, I got a message on Facebook from someone I didn't know, a woman named Pim. "I need to talk to you about Nat. Can we meet?" I almost deleted it, almost blocked her. But something made me respond. "Who are you?" "I am her friend. Or I was. Please, I have something you need to know." We met at a cafe across town. She was younger than Nat, maybe 28, with nervous hands and eyes that wouldn't stay still. She ordered tea she didn't drink and kept looking at the door like she expected someone to walk in and catch her. "I shouldn't be here," she said. "If Nat finds out, she will be very angry with me." "What do you want to tell me?" She took a breath. She did this before, with other men, foreign men. My stomach turned. "What do you mean?" 2 years ago, there was a man from America. He was older, like you. She met him online. They got married after 4 months. She borrowed money from him. A lot of money. For her family, for debts, for problems that always needed fixing. Then one day he found out she had a boyfriend, a Thai man, someone her age. And when the American confronted her, she just left, took all the money he'd given her and disappeared. "How do you know this?" "I was there. I saw it happen. I told her it was wrong. I told her she should stop. But she said, 'He has money, and I need money. What is wrong with that?' And she's doing it again? To me?" Pim nodded. "I told her not to. When she told me about you, I said, 'Don't do this again. Don't hurt another person.' But she said you were different. She said you would never find out. She said she needed the money to pay off her debts from before, the ones the American didn't cover. So everything was a lie? From the beginning?" "I don't know about everything. Maybe she liked you. Maybe some part was real. But the money, the debts, the loan, that was always the plan." I felt like I was going to be sick. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I am tired of watching her do this. And because you seem like good person. You don't deserve this. Does she love me? At all?" Pim looked away. "I don't think Nat knows what love is. I think she only knows how to survive, and she survives by finding men who will pay." I thanked her, paid for her tea, watched her leave in a hurry, still glancing over her shoulder. Then I sat there for an hour, my coffee going cold, trying to process what I'd just learned. Everything was a lie. The meet cute on the app, the shy smiles, the gradual escalation of need, the marriage. All of it had been designed, calculated, performed. I wasn't her husband. I was her retirement plan. I called Darren that night. "I should have listened to you," I said. "What happened?" I told him everything. The loan, the documents, the conversation with Pim. By the time I finished, I was too tired to even be angry. "Christ, mate," he said. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know. Hire a lawyer, I guess. Try to figure out if there's any way out of this. You need a good one. I know a guy. I'll send you his contact." "Thanks." "And Bryce? Yeah? It's not your fault. You were lonely, and she took advantage of that. That doesn't make you stupid. That makes you human." I wanted to believe him. But that night, lying in a hotel bed, staring at the water stains on the ceiling, all I could think was that I'd done this to myself. I'd seen the signs. Darren had warned me. The money kept disappearing, but I'd chosen to believe anyway, because believing felt better than facing the truth, and that was on me, no one else. The lawyer Darren recommended was named Upirok. He was 45, spoke fluent English, and had the kind of face that had seen too many stories like mine. We met in his office, a small room above a pharmacy, and I laid out everything: the marriage, the loan, the documents I'd signed without reading, the conversation with Pim. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and sighed. "This is complicated," he said. "Can I get out of it? Out of the loan?" "No. You signed. Your name is on the documents. The bank has a legal contract with you." "But I was tricked. She lied about what I was signing." "That is dispute between you and your wife. But the bank, they have valid contract. In Thai law, ignorance is not defense. You signed, you are responsible. So I'm just stuck? I have to pay $50,000 I don't have?" "Not necessarily. We can negotiate with bank, set up payment plan, reduce interest maybe. But you will pay something. That is certain." "What about divorce?" "Divorce will not erase debt. The loan is in your name only. Even if you divorce, you still owe money. But yes, I recommend you divorce as soon as possible, before she can put you on more loans." "Can she do that? Put me on more loans?" "If she has your ID documents, your signature, your bank information, yes, she can try. So you must be careful. Change passwords, lock your credit, protect yourself." "I already gave her everything." "Then you must take it back, or at least protect what is left." I hired him that day. Paid his retainer with the last of my accessible savings. He said the divorce would take a few months, maybe longer if Nat contested it. The loan negotiation would take even longer. In the meantime, I was to avoid contact with her, not to sign anything, not to give her any more money. "And Mr. Bryce," he said as I was leaving, "I am sorry this happened to you. You are not the first. You will not be the last. But that does not make it hurt less, I know." I nodded. I couldn't speak. If I tried, I'd start crying, and I was so tired of crying. That night I moved to a cheaper hotel. Started looking at part-time work I could do remotely to rebuild my savings. Started calculating how long it would take to pay off a debt I never agreed to take on. Started accepting that the retirement I'd planned, the peaceful years I'd imagined, were gone, replaced by payments and lawyers and the humiliation of knowing I'd been conned. I texted Nat once. Simple message: "My lawyer will send divorce papers. Sign them and move on. Don't contact me again." She tried to call 7 times that first day. I didn't answer. Eventually the calls stopped. I heard from Apirak a week later that she'd hired her own lawyer, that she was contesting some of the asset division. Of course she was. Of course there had to be one more fight, one more squeeze before she let go. I stopped trying to understand why she did it. Stopped trying to figure out if any of it had been real. Because even if some small part had been genuine, even if she'd actually liked me in the beginning, it didn't matter. She'd still lied, still manipulated, still destroyed my trust and my financial future for her own survival. And I'd let her. That was the part that kept me up at night. Not just that she'd done it, but that I'd made it so easy. The last time I saw Nat was at a cafe. Not the one where we'd met, but close enough that it felt deliberate. She'd asked to meet, said she wanted closure. Apirak advised against it, but I agreed anyway. I don't know why. Maybe I needed to see her one more time. Maybe I needed to hear her admit the truth. Maybe I just needed to prove to myself that I could sit across from her and feel nothing. She was already there when I arrived, still beautiful, still composed. She'd cut her hair shorter. It looked good on her. Everything looked good on her. "Thank you for coming," she said as I sat down. "I've 10 minutes. I just wanted to say I'm sorry for everything." "Okay. That's it? Just okay?" "What do you want me to say, Nat? That I forgive you? That I understand?" "I don't understand. I don't understand how you could do this to someone, to anyone, let alone someone who loved you. She looked down at her hands. I needed the money. You had money. It seemed simple. So it was always a scam? From the beginning? At first, maybe. But then I started to care about you. You were kind. You were good to me. That was real. But not real enough to stop lying? Not real enough to tell me the truth about the loan? She didn't answer. I want to know, I said, leaning forward. Did you ever love me? Even a little? She was quiet for a long time. Long enough that I thought she might not answer at all. Then she said, very softly, I needed help. You offered. That's all it was. Something broke in my chest. The last little piece of hope I'd been carrying around that maybe, somehow, some part of what we had was real. It shattered, and in its place was just clarity, cold, clean, painful clarity. You're right, I said. That's all it was. I pulled the divorce papers from my bag and set them on the table. Sign these. She picked up the pen. Didn't hesitate. Didn't cry. Just signed her name at the bottom of each page, neat and efficient. There, she said. We're done. Yeah, we're done. I stood up. She didn't try to stop me. Didn't ask me to stay. Just sat there, holding the pen, watching me leave. I walked out of that cafe and into the afternoon heat, walked past the night market, past the street where we used to walk hand in hand, past all the places that had felt like the beginning of something new and now just felt like crime scenes. I didn't cry. I didn't feel angry. I just felt tired and awake. The weight of what I'd lost sat heavy in my chest. The money, the pride, the hope that love after 60 could be simple and real and kind, but something else was there too. Something I didn't expect, a kind of peace. Because at least now I knew. At least now I wasn't stumbling around in the dark, making excuses, believing lies. I could see everything clearly. And seeing clearly, even when it hurt, was better than living in a beautiful delusion. I flew back to Australia 3 weeks later, watched Thailand disappear beneath the clouds and felt nothing. Not relief, not regret, just nothing. I've been back in Brisbane for 6 months now, living in a small apartment, working part-time at an electrical supply store to rebuild what I lost, making payments on a loan I never wanted for a business that never existed for a brother-in-law I barely knew. The debt will take me years to pay off. The lawyer says 10 years minimum, maybe 15. I'll be almost 80 by the time I'm free of it. My retirement is gone. My savings are gone. My plan to travel, to enjoy my last good years, to maybe find peace somewhere quiet, all of it gone. Darren messages me sometimes, checking in, asking how I'm doing. I tell him I'm fine because it's easier than explaining that I'm not fine, but I'm also not broken. I'm just here, still standing, still moving forward, still trying to figure out who I am now, that I'm not the man who believed in second chances. I don't blame Nat anymore. I wish I could. Blame would be easier. Anger would be easier. But the truth is, she was surviving the only way she knew how. And I was desperate enough to be loved that I ignored every warning. That's on me, not her. My daughter called last week. First time in over a year. She'd heard from someone that I'd gotten divorced again. Asked if I was okay. I told her I was fine. We talked for 10 minutes. It was awkward and distant, but it was something. Maybe that's all I can ask for now. Small connections, small steps, small pieces of a life I'm trying to rebuild. I think about Thailand sometimes, about the heat and the markets and the way the sun set over the city in streaks of orange and pink. I think about Nat's smile and the way her hand felt in mine and the moment right at the beginning when I thought I'd found something real. But mostly I think about the cost, not the money. The money was just numbers. The cost was believing too much, wanting too much, needing so badly to be needed that I stopped asking why. I wrote Darren a message last week, just 3 words. You were right. He wrote back an hour later. doesn't mean I wanted to be, mate. I'm sitting on my balcony now, watching the sun go down over Brisbane. It's not as beautiful as the sunsets in Udon Thani, but it's mine, my city, my life, my mess to clean up. I don't know what comes next. Maybe I'll work until I'm 80 and never retire. Maybe I'll meet someone else someday, though the thought terrifies me now. Maybe I'll just keep putting one foot in front of the other until the debt is paid and I can breathe again. But here's what I learned. Love shouldn't cost everything. Real love doesn't come with debts and lies and manipulation disguised as need. Real love doesn't make you feel like a hero one day and a fool the next. Real love doesn't take everything you have and leave you empty. I didn't know that before Thailand. I do now. And maybe that's worth something. Maybe that hard-earned wisdom, bought with $50,000 and a shattered heart, maybe that's the lesson I was supposed to learn all along. I'm 64 years old. I've been married twice, divorced twice, scammed once, but I'm still here, still standing, still awake. And for now, that's enough.